I want you to take a moment and think about the version of yourself that woke up this morning. Think about the thoughts that flooded your mind the moment your eyes opened. Were they thoughts of possibility? Or were they the same recycled anxieties you've been carrying for the last 5 years? Most of us are living in a ghost story. We are haunted by a version of ourselves that no longer exists, yet we allow that ghost to make our decisions, set our boundaries, and dictate our worth. We stand at the threshold of greatness, yet we keep reaching back into the past to grab the hand of a person we have already outlived. To outgrow the old you is not a luxury. It is a fundamental necessity of the human spirit. If you are not growing, you are not just standing still, you are decaying. In nature, anything that stops expanding begins to die. The river that stops flowing becomes a swamp. The tree that stops reaching for the sun begins to rot from the inside out. And yet, we humans spend decades trying to stay the same, clinging to our identity as if it were a life raft, when in reality, it has become an anchor dragging us to the bottom of the ocean. The first step in this massive transformation is the realization that your current identity is largely a construction of survival. The old you was built to survive a childhood that was perhaps chaotic. It was built to survive a heartbreak that left you shattered. It was built to survive a workplace that didn't value your talent. You created a set of armor defenses, sarcasm, withdrawal, or perhaps people-pleasing to get through those moments. It worked. You are here today because that version of you was a warrior, but the war is over and you are still walking around in heavy, rusted armor, wondering why you feel so tired. You are trying to dance in a coat of mail. You are trying to swim while wearing lead boots. Outgrowing yourself means having the profound gratitude to look at that old version of yourself and say, "Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for getting me this far. But I don't need you to lead me anymore." This is an act of supreme courage because without that armor, you feel naked. Without those old habits, you feel exposed. But it is only in that nakedness, in that vulnerability, that the new skin can begin to form. We often mistake consistency for integrity. We think that because we have always been the shy one, or the angry one, or the one who never finishes anything, we must remain that way to be true to ourselves. But which self are you being true to? The one that was shaped by trauma and limitation, or the one that is calling out from your future? Your potential is calling you, but it speaks a language the old you doesn't understand. It speaks in the language of risk, of bold proclamations, and of quiet, steady discipline. To hear it, you have to turn down the volume on the old narrative. You have to stop telling the story of why you can't. You have to stop being the historian of your own failures. Every time you recount a past mistake as a reason why you shouldn't try something new, you are feeding the old you. You are giving life support to a version of yourself that needs to be allowed to pass away. Think about the sheer energy it takes to maintain a version of yourself that you have outgrown. It is like trying to stay in a house where the ceilings are too low and the hallways are too narrow. You have to hunch over just to move from room to room. You have to shrink your dreams so they fit through the door. You have to mute your voice so you don't rattle the windows. This internal friction is the source of so much of our modern exhaustion. We aren't tired from working too hard. We are tired from shrinking too much. We are tired from the effort of pretending that we are still satisfied with a life that no longer fits. Outgrowing yourself requires you to stand up straight, even if it means the roof of your old life cracks and collapses around you. It is better to stand in the rubble of a collapsed identity as a giant than to live in a pristine palace as a dwarf. This process of outgrowing is often signaled by a period of holy discontent. It's that feeling where the things that used to make you happy now feel hollow. The friends you used to laugh with now seem to be speaking a different language. The goals you used to chase now feel like someone else's prizes. Don't fear this discontent. Don't try to medicate it away or distract yourself from it with mindless scrolling or temporary pleasures. That discontent is the birth pangs of the new you. It is the evidence that your soul has expanded beyond the borders of your current reality. You are not lost, you are simply too big for the map you've been using. You need a new map, a bigger territory, and a higher vantage point. The old you is comfortable with the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. There is a strange comfort in known misery that feels safer than unknown joy. This is why people stay in toxic relationships, dead-end jobs, and self-destructive habits. They know the dimensions of that pain. They have mapped it out. They know how to navigate it. The new you represents the unknown, and the human brain is wired to fear the unknown. But you are more than your biology. You are a conscious creator. You have the ability to override that primal fear with a vision of what could be. You have to become more in love with the person you are becoming than you are attached to the person you used to be. You have to be willing to be a stranger to yourself for a while. You have to be okay with people asking, "What happened to you?" You've changed, and being able to answer with a smile, I certainly hope so. Change is the only evidence of life. If you aren't changing, you aren't living, you are merely occupying space. It is time to stop occupying space and start claiming your destiny. It is time to realize that the person you were was just a seed, and a seed must be completely destroyed for the tree to emerge. Do not fear the destruction of the seed. Embrace the power of the growth. The transition of outgrowing the old you is rarely a clean break. It is a long, often agonizing stretch of road where you are no longer the person you were, but you aren't yet the person you need to be. This is the middle ground, the wilderness where most people turn back. When you decide to outgrow your old self, you are essentially declaring war on your own subconscious mind. Your brain loves efficiency, and efficiency is found in the old habits, the old reactions, and the old neural pathways you spent years paving. When you try to walk a new path, your entire biology screams in protest. This is why the first few weeks or months of change feel so incredibly difficult. It isn't just a lack of willpower, it is a physical and psychological rebellion. You are trying to overwrite a software program that has been running for decades. You must understand that feeling wrong, feeling fake, or feeling uncomfortable isn't a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that the old you is finally losing its grip. In this middle stage, you will encounter the void. The void is that silent space where the old comforts have been removed, but the new rewards haven't yet arrived. You stopped hanging out with the people who brought you down, but you haven't yet found your new tribe. You've stopped the self-sabotaging habits, but you haven't yet felt the surge of energy that comes from discipline. You are sitting in the silence, and that silence can be terrifying. It is in this void that the old you performs its most desperate act. It tries to convince you that you were better off before. It whispers that you were safer when you were small. It tells you that you are being arrogant for wanting more, or that you are being delusional for thinking you can change. This is the moment of truth. If you can survive the void without running back to the familiar, you have already won the most important battle of your life. Outgrowing the old you requires a radical pruning of your life. Think of a gardener who wants a rose bush to reach its full potential. They don't just water it, they cut it. They prune away the branches that are growing in the wrong direction. They cut off the suckers, those little stems that drain energy from the main stalk but never produce a flower. You must do the same with your life. You have suckers in your life habits, commitments, and even relationships that drain your emotional and spiritual energy without providing any growth. Pruning is painful. It feels like you are losing parts of yourself, but you aren't losing anything that was meant to stay. You are simply clearing the path for the real fruit to grow. You have to be ruthless with your time and your energy. You have to learn the power of a holy no. No, I will not engage in that gossip. No, I will not spend my evening mindlessly consuming content. No, I will not accept the version of myself that settles for less than I am capable of. One of the greatest hurdles in outgrowing yourself is the loyalty trap. We feel a misplaced sense of loyalty to our past struggles. We think that if we become successful, happy, and healthy, we are somehow betraying the person who suffered. We hold on to our trauma like a badge of honor, afraid that if we let go of the pain, we will lose our identity. But your trauma is something that happened to you. It is not who you are. The old you was defined by what you survived. The new you is defined by what you create. You must give yourself permission to be happy. You must give yourself permission to be light. You must give yourself permission to leave the graveyard of your past. There is no nobility in remaining stuck in a version of yourself that is miserable just because that version feels authentic to your history. True authenticity is being honest about your desire to expand. As you navigate this middle ground, you will notice that your gravity changes. When you were the old version of yourself, you had a certain orbit. You attracted people and situations that matched your level of self-worth. As you outgrow that self, you start to pull away from that orbit. This causes friction. People will push back. They will try to remind you of who you are. They will bring up your old mistakes like they are evidence in a trial. They will say things like, "You've changed," with a tone of disappointment. You must realize that their disappointment is not your responsibility. Often, when people say you've changed, it just means you've stopped living your life in a way that accommodates their convenience. You are no longer playing the role they cast you in. That is a victory, not a failure. You were not born to be an extra in someone else's movie. You were born to be the director of your own. This stage of growth requires a new kind of discipline, the discipline of the mind. You have to start curating your thoughts as if they were the most valuable assets on earth, because they are. The old you had a default setting of criticism or doubt. The new, you must have a manual setting of intentionality. You have to wake up and consciously choose your state of being. You have to practice the person you want to become. If you want to be a person of confidence, you have to practice acting with confidence even when your heart is pounding. If you want to be a person of peace, you have to practice responding with patience even when you feel like screaming. This isn't being fake, it is being intentional. It is the process of acting as if until the new behavior becomes the new default. You are building new muscle, and muscle is only built through resistance. Finally, in this crucible, you must learn to forgive the old you. Many of us can't outgrow our past selves because we are too busy punishing them. We look back at our younger selves with shame, embarrassment, or anger. We hate that we stayed so long in that relationship. We hate that we wasted those years. We hate that we were so weak, but that hatred is a tether. It keeps you tied to the very person you are trying to leave behind. You cannot outgrow what you refuse to forgive. That younger version of you did the best they could with the tools they had. They were operating in survival mode. They didn't have the wisdom you have now. Instead of hating them, thank them. They endured the cold so you could find the warmth. They took the hits so you could stand tall. Wrap that old version of yourself in a blanket of compassion, say goodbye, and walk firmly into the new territory you are claiming. The middle ground is where the work is done, but the horizon is where the reward lives. When you finally emerge from the density of the middle ground, something miraculous happens. The air feels different. The light hits the world in a way you hadn't noticed before. This is the stage of integration, where the new you is no longer a costume you are trying on, but the skin you actually live in. You are no longer trying to be different. You simply are. But this stage brings its own set of challenges, the most significant being the temptation to stop. There is a dangerous, seductive quality to reaching a new level of success or peace. You might look around and think, I've done it. I've outgrown the old me. I can finally rest. But the truth of the human spirit is that we are not static monuments, we are flowing rivers. The moment you think you have arrived is the moment you begin to build a new cage. To truly outgrow the old you is to realize that the old you will eventually include the person you are right now. Integration means taking the fragmented pieces of your past and weaving them into a tapestry of power. You no longer look at your history as a series of disconnected accidents or shameful detours. Instead, you see the divine architecture of your evolution. You realize that the old you who failed at that business provided the exact insight the current you needs to succeed. You realize that the old you who was heartbroken developed the depth of character and empathy that allows the current you to love more deeply and authentically. Integration is the end of the internal civil war. It is the moment you stop trying to kill off the old self and instead start to lead it. You become the wise elder to your own younger impulses. You acknowledge the fear when it arises, but you don't let it take the wheel. You acknowledge the old insecurities, but you treat them with the kindness you would show a frightened child, rather than the contempt you used to feel. As you step into this new horizon, you must redefine your relationship with failure. To the old you, failure was a verdict. It was a sign that you weren't enough, a reason to stop, a source of lasting shame. To the version of you that has outgrown that smallness, failure is simply data. It is the feedback mechanism of the universe. When you are constantly outgrowing yourself, you are constantly operating at the edge of your abilities. This means you will stumble. This means you will make mistakes. But these are no longer failures in the traditional sense. They are the scuff marks on the shoes of a person who is actually walking. If your shoes are perfectly clean, it means you haven't gone anywhere. The new you embraces the messiness of being a work in progress. You find a strange, rugged joy in the struggle because you know that the struggle is the very thing that is expanding your capacity. One of the most profound shifts in this final stage is the movement from getting to being. The old you was likely obsessed with what you could get: status, money, validation, love. You were operating from a place of lack, trying to fill a hole in your soul with external things. But as you outgrow that scarcity mindset, you realize that the most important thing is who you are being in every moment. You start to value your peace of mind more than your prestige. You value your integrity more than your image. You realize that you don't need the world to tell you who you are, because you have done the hard work of defining yourself. This internal solidness makes you dangerous to the status quo. You cannot be easily manipulated by fear or greed, because your foundation is internal. You have outgrown the need for the world's permission to exist. This new level of existence also requires a new level of community. As you integrate your growth, you will find that you no longer have the tolerance for small talk or shallow connections. You crave soul talk. You seek out people who are also in the process of outgrowing themselves. You look for the radiators, not the drains. And as you find these people, you realize that your growth wasn't just for you. This is the secret of transformation. We outgrow ourselves so that we can better serve others. A person who is trapped in their own old patterns, their own ego, and their own past trauma has very little room to help anyone else. They are too busy trying to keep their own head above water. But as you outgrow those limitations, you become a lighthouse. Your presence alone gives others the silent permission to begin their own journey of growth. You don't even have to say a word. By simply standing in your truth and refusing to shrink, you challenge the smallness in everyone around you. However, you must be prepared for the loneliness of the heights. The further you go on this journey of outgrowing yourself, the fewer people there will be who truly understand the path you are on. This is not because you are better than them, but because you have chosen a path of intensity that most people avoid. You must be comfortable with your own company. You must become your own best friend, your own coach, and your own cheerleader. The new you doesn't fear solitude, you cherish it, because it is in the silence that you can hear the whispers of the next version of yourself waiting to be born. You learn to listen to your intuition, that quiet, steady inner compass that the old you used to drown out with the noise of other people's opinions. As we conclude this exploration, I want to leave you with a vision of the infinite horizon. Outgrowing the old you is not a one-time event, it is the rhythm of a life well lived. Every few years, you should look back at the person you were and feel a slight sense of who was that. Not with judgment, but with the awe of a traveler looking back at a distant mountain they've already climbed. If you are the same person you were 5 years ago, you have been holding your breath. It is time to exhale. It is time to let go of the stories that have kept you small. It is time to burn the blueprints of the life you thought you were supposed to have and start building the life you were meant to lead. The old you was a cocoon. It was tight, it was dark, and it was protective. But the purpose of a cocoon is not to stay in it forever. The purpose is to provide the environment where the transformation can happen. You have been in the dark long enough. You have been restricted long enough. You have been waiting for the right time long enough. The right time is the moment you decide that you can no longer tolerate the person you used to be. The right time is right now. Step out into the sun. Feel the stretching of your new wings. Look out at the vast, terrifying, beautiful horizon of your future and realize that you are finally, for the first time, large enough to inhabit it. You have outgrown the small rooms of your past. The entire world is now your home. Do not look back. The person you were is a memory. The person you are becoming is a miracle. All of that miracle. Go outgrow yourself again and again until the day you leave this earth, having used every ounce of the potential you were given. This is your life. This is your moment. This is your rebirth.